Hi everyone, and welcome back to Hoodie Narrates. Have a great day. This post is from the subreddit Am I the Asshole? Ambitious_base_182. Am I the asshole for telling my fiancé I would call off the engagement if he does not stop hanging out with my father because of a situation that happened with my ex? I, 27 female, have a complicated relationship with my dad, 55 male. He wasn't a bad father, but he's been a terrible husband. Growing up, I constantly found my mother crying because dad had cheated on her again. He'd cheat, she'd lash out. He'd crack jokes to lighten the mood, which made her even angrier. Then within days they'd be back to normal, until she'd catch him cheating again. I resented my father for this, and my mother somewhat for tolerating it so much. After college, I returned to living with my parents until I could figure my finances out. I met a guy I really liked, and he would come over to my parents' house most of the time. He and my dad got close pretty quickly. They would hang out together a lot, go on fishing and camping trips together. I thought it was nice that my father and my boyfriend were getting along so well, until I overheard them one day talking about their latest adventure. From that conversation, I realized their trips weren't just about fishing or camping. They were picking up women together. Essentially, Dad was encouraging him to cheat on me, but just he discreet about it. They tried denying it, but I wasn't fooled. I broke up with him immediately, and my relationship with my dad got even worse. I moved out some months later and rarely visited. My apartment was only a 20 minutes drive away from my parents, but from them, I visited just a handful of times because of my mother. Now on to the current situation. I met my fiancé, 26M, some months after my last relationship, and we dated for a year and a half before he asked me to marry him. I'd already introduced him to my parents, and they'd met a couple more times. He knew about the situation with my ex, and why my relationship with my father was strained. We got engaged a month ago, the week before Thanksgiving. When I informed my mother, she begged us to come spend Thanksgiving weekend with them to celebrate. She used the fact that we drifted apart so much and my fiancé convinced me, so I agreed. On the first night, after dinner, my dad invited my fiancé to go out on the porch to drink beer and chat. My mom and I decided to join them. The conversation was mostly about their mutual love for football. After an hour or so, it got tiring and I wanted to sleep. My mom had already went off to bed. When I told my fiancé, he told me to go ahead and he would be with me soon. I felt very uneasy about leaving them alone, but I didn't want my fiancé to feel like I was monitoring him. My fiancé accidentally woke me up when he finally came to our room in the middle of the night. When I asked him why he was coming to sleep so late and what they were still talking about for so long, he replied, "Football, of course." I didn't press further. All weekend they hung out constantly. My fiancé helped Dad with chores and ran errands with him. When I brought it up, he said he was just being polite. Fast forward to yesterday, my fiancé casually informed me he would be going on a camping trip with a friend. This isn't the first time he has gone on a camping since we got together, but I got suspicious because he got evasive when I asked who he was going with. When I pressed, he finally admitted he was going with my dad. Apparently, over the weeks after Thanksgiving, they stayed in contact. They'd even gone to watch a football game together without me knowing because my father said I would make a big deal out of it. I lost it and told him absolutely not. I reminded him what happened with my ex. He said I was being paranoid, that my dad was cool to hang out with, and had never mentioned anything about women. He said my dad didn't force my ex to cheat, so I couldn't keep holding a grudge. That hurt very much, in addition to the fact that he wouldn't cancel the camping trip like I asked. So I told him that he could either stop hanging out with my dad, or I would call off our engagement. He got upset and accused me of trying to control him, and the fact that I think my dad can influence him means I don't trust him. We've barely talked since yesterday, as he keeps giving me the cold shoulder. I don't want to be the kind of woman who controls who her man hangs out with, but I feel like I set a clear boundary from the very start regarding my dad, and he knows how it makes me feel. Sorry for the long post, but I felt that the context was important. Am I the asshole for giving him that ultimatum? Well, OP, you're not wrong for drawing a hard boundary around your father, especially given the history. This isn't paranoia or insecurity, it's pattern recognition. Your father has already crossed a line that directly harmed you once, and expecting your partner to respect that history is not controlling. It's reasonable. Boundaries don't stop being valid just because someone else finds them inconvenient. What's concerning here isn't just that your fiancé wants to hang out with your dad. It's that he dismissed your lived experience and minimized the damage your father caused. When someone tells you, you're being paranoid, instead of asking, how can I make you feel safe? That's a problem. You weren't asking him to give up friendships randomly. You were asking him not to align himself with someone who actively sabotaged your past relationship. That's a fair expectation in a partnership built on trust and empathy. And while her ultimatum already showed how serious this boundary was to her, the update reveals just how deeply her father and fiancé were aligned, and why walking away became the only option left. And now, here's the update from the original poster. Thanks to everyone who commented on my original post. I read every comment, but I couldn't reply to any because it felt like I was reading what I knew deep within my guts. So I did not break up with my fiancé right away. Pathetic, I know. This is a man I'd been with for almost 2 years, and we'd never had any major fights until now. I wanted to wait to see if he would understand where I was coming from and decide to cut my father off, but 2 days later, he was still giving me the cold shoulder despite my attempts to talk it out. I forgot to mention in my original post that my fiancé did say that it wouldn't be just him and my dad. His friend would be there too, so I didn't have to worry. But I think that's beside the point. What broke the pathetic bubble I was in was when a text came through his phone while he was in the shower. It was my father's number and it said, "Has she cracked yet?" I finally understood that my fiancé had been giving me the cold shoulder to make me relent, and he had no intention of canceling the trip with my dad. Something broke in me, but it wasn't anger. I took off my ring and placed it on the nightstand. When he came out of the shower, I calmly told him that I needed him out of my apartment by the end of the week. He again tried to point out how unreasonable I was being and how it was turning me into a controlling woman. I told him I didn't want to control his life, which is why I'm asking him to leave. That way, he can be free to be friends with whoever he wants. But I can't be with someone who doesn't respect my boundaries and thinks there's nothing wrong with associating with someone who hurt me so much. He changed his tune very quickly and said he would cancel the trip and stop talking to my dad if that would make me happy. But he didn't want me to leave him. I have to admit that I was tempted for a second, but I managed to stand my ground and told him I didn't want to be with him anymore. Then I left the apartment and drove to my parents' house. My calmness disappeared there as I ripped into my dad for being a POS of a human being, for constantly cheating on my mom and destroying my relationship again like he did before. I didn't expect a shred of remorse, and he gave none. All those who commented that he does this to prove a point were right. My dad told me that if I expect to find a man who will be satisfied with just me forever, then I am living in a bubble. Men are designed to want variety every once in a while. I pretty much expected that, so I wasn't shocked. What broke me was my mother agreeing with him and telling me that I would never find the perfect man because all men cheat. But what's important is that you're the one he loves and comes home to at the end of the day. In my previous post, I mentioned being somewhat resentful towards my mom as well for taking so much crap from my father. But I had never looked at her and felt disgust as I felt in that moment. I calmly told her that wasn't true. She might have resigned herself to being with a POS, but I know I deserve so much better. I told my father I don't care if he disowns me, takes me out of his will or whatever. I don't want anything to do with him ever again. And I told my mom that I loved her, but until she gathers enough balls and self-respect to leave my dad, I don't want anything to do with her either. Then I left their house and drove to my best friend's house, where I proceeded to break down into pieces. Sorry if the write-up feels choppy. I've lost 2 of the people I care about the most, and it hurts like hell. But I also know that I have to put myself first for once after all the crap I've put up with. Like most of you, my best friend also suggested therapy, so I'm going to look into that. P.S. I know legally, I owe my ex-fiancé a month's notice. He moved in with me 7 months ago, but I don't think I can stomach it for that long. Hopefully, he'll leave within the week and not make things difficult for me. In the meantime, I will be staying at my friend's house. Thanks so much for all your responses. It comforts me a bit even when I feel so crappy. Well, OP, the update is devastating. but it also removes any lingering doubt about whether your instincts were right. That text alone says everything. Your father wasn't just a passive presence in your life. He was actively working against you again. And your fiancé didn't just ignore your boundary. He collaborated with the person who hurt you, then used emotional withdrawal to pressure you into backing down. That's not love. That's manipulation. What hurts most here isn't just losing your fiancé. It's realizing that the people who were supposed to protect you normalized betrayal so deeply that they expected you to accept it too. Walking away from your father, your fiancé, and even your mother's enabling wasn't dramatic or impulsive. It was an act of self-respect. You chose to break a generational cycle instead of repeating it. That kind of choice is incredibly painful, but it's also incredibly brave. You didn't lose your family because you were too sensitive. You stepped away because you refused to build a life on lies, disrespect, and quiet suffering. And that decision, even though it hurts right now, is the foundation of a much healthier future. This post is from the subreddit Am I the Asshole? No_reflection 7149. Am I the asshole for showing my coworker what just being honest can be like? I don't know how else to put it because it's a weird situation. Also, this is a throwaway because I don't want this on my main. I, 26 female, started working at my job 6 months ago, and I immediately realized it was a horrible work environment. The men act like they're still in a frat house or something. There's one in specific that is like their evil leader. Let's call Jake 30ish. He said he is just honest and talk about free speech, or how he just say the first thing that comes to his mind. He is just disrespectful and a bad person according to me. I started looking for a new job 3 months ago, but haven't had any luck with the same pay, so I'm still here. As I said, he is cruel and mean with everyone, especially the women and a couple guys who aren't alpha enough. For more context, I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and other things, and I struggled a lot as a teen/early 20s to be kind to people, and myself. I also still have the impulses to say all the mean things that come to mind, but I worked hard in therapy to stop those thoughts and redirect myself somewhere else. Anyway, I decided to give him the same treatment he gave everyone after he told a pregnant coworker he can't understand how her husband didn't cheat on her yet because she's a cow now. I started about 3 weeks ago. He came to talk to me and told me I'm basically a dude because I don't have enough chest, and I told him, Jake, are you balding or your forehead was always that inhumanly big? And so on. But yesterday, we were talking with a few coworkers about all I cooked for New Year's because I tend to go overboard, and they were impressed with my dinner. He came and started saying nonsense and throwing insults, so I said, see, this is exactly why your daddy left you. And I continued with my conversation. Well, he talked to HR, and I have an appointment to talk to them on Thursday. However, my co-workers said they would support me, and they decided to file complaints against Jake now and document his behavior. Apparently they already did, but HR just gave him a slap in the wrist, and they're angry now because they want to talk to me so fast. I'm not particularly scared about the appointment, but I wonder if I went a little too far. Yes, he started, but I don't tend to lower myself to bullies' levels, but I really didn't see any other way when HR never did anything about the complaints. I don't really want to apologize to him, but I'll FO it if I cross a line, because as I said, I work hard in therapy to be as decent of a human as I can be, and maybe this wasn't the best way to handle all this. So am I the asshole? Well, OP, your frustration didn't come out of nowhere. You were dealing with a hostile work environment where cruelty was normalized and disguised as honesty, and where reporting bad behavior led to nothing. That kind of environment slowly pushes people into corners, where they feel like the only way to be heard is to speak the same language as the bully. That said, meeting cruelty with cruelty almost always comes with consequences, even when the target deserves it. You weren't wrong for wanting to expose how harmful just being honest can feel. But workplaces aren't built to handle vigilante justice well. This situation isn't about you being weak or hypocritical. It's about what happens when accountability systems fail and people are left to defend themselves without support. And while matching his cruelty felt like crossing a line she'd worked hard not to cross, the update shows what happened once the situation was finally put under real scrutiny. And now, here's the update from the original poster. Well, I had my meeting with HR, and it went relatively okay. First of all, I went on detective mode, and I found out one of the HR guys, Dylan, was related to Jake. Their moms are cousins, so they don't have the same last name or anything, but I found Jake's mom's Facebook, and then a picture with Jake's mom, Dylan, and his mom. I screenshotted it, and I talked to my supervisor, and he decided to come with me to the meeting. In the meeting there was Dylan, his boss, Jake, my supervisor, and me. Dylan tried to lead the meeting and suggested immediate termination, but my supervisor told him, "We will have our meeting with the other guy because I deserved a neutral meeting," and showed both of them the picture. Dylan's face dropped, but he didn't say anything else after that and just leave the room. The other HR guy talked to me and my supervisor, and I gave him my story and gave him like 12 notes signed by my co-workers where they talked about their experiences with Jake. The HR guy called a couple of them, including my pregnant co-worker, in his office too after dismissing me, and on Friday I had another meeting, but it was only me and the HR guy. I talked about how uncomfortable I felt and how everyone tried to do the right thing by reporting him, but they never did anything. He said he understood, and sadly Dylan was not impartial in his actions by covering for Jake, but that it was dealt with. He said I wasn't going to get written up or anything, and that I'm in the clear, but he asked me to not repeat this, and I told him I wasn't planning on doing it again, and he just told me to go to him if something else happens. Yesterday I got to the office, and everything was normal, but at noon my supervisor came to find me and my pregnant co-worker and told us that Jake and Dylan were let go, and Dylan might have some legal troubles with the company, but he couldn't discuss that, and asked us to not say anything about it to anyone else, and that people would realize about Jake anyway. I also have a second interview in another company next week. I'm hopeful but also nervous because I had interviews before, but it didn't go anywhere at the end. And that's all. It was more dramatic than I expected. I thought they'd fired me and keep Jake or something, but I feel finding out Dylan was covering for Jake because their family relationship helped me tremendously. Thank you for the advice, it was really useful. Well, OP, the update completely changes the context, and honestly, it validates why nothing was ever done before. Once it came out that HR was compromised by a family connection, it became clear that you weren't just reacting emotionally. You were responding to a system that was actively protecting a bully. That matters a lot. What stands out here is that you didn't spiral or double down once things escalated. You gathered evidence, brought support, involved a neutral authority, and told the truth clearly. And in the end, the people abusing power were the ones removed, not you. This wasn't about winning an argument or proving you could be just as cruel. It was about exposing a toxic culture that depended on silence to survive. You didn't lower yourself permanently. You survived a bad environment long enough for the truth to surface. And now, with accountability finally happening and a new opportunity on the horizon, this feels less like a mistake and more like the painful middle chapter before something better. All right, everyone, which story got you fired up the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. As always, thank you for spending your time with me. Your support genuinely means the world. Take care, much love, and I'll see you in the next one.